Rain was coming down so hard that night it felt like the sky was trying to wash the whole world clean. You know those nights where every bad day you ever had seems to echo in the sound of water pounding the roof. The kind of storm that makes you wonder if the sun's ever coming back. That's the night I first saw her. Jenna, a name I only learned much later, knelt there in the mud by a rig she'd never seen before, soaked through and fixing the brakes on a truck for a man whose name she never even bothered to ask. There was nothing dramatic in her posture. No fanfare, just a steady pair of hands, a focus so sharp it seemed like the rain itself respected her space. She didn't want anything from him, just wanted him to get home safe. Weeks later, when that rumble came down the highway, when headlights stacked up against the horizon like a string of silent sentinels, nobody in town saw it coming. Not Jenna, not me, not anyone. But let me back up a second, because stories like this, they don't start at the ending. They start with quiet people in forgotten places doing things that no one else sees. And sometimes, when you least expect it, that's where the world tips sideways. Jenna's garage sat at the edge of nowhere, clinging to the side of a two-lane road the world forgot. Patched together with stubbornness and duct tape, rebuilt piece by piece after her old man died. She ran it herself. Black coffee, socket wrenches, tired eyes. Always a little grease under her nails no matter how much she scrubbed. Her hair was always pulled back, her boots never really dry. She never complained. Not about the work, not about the hours, not even about the loneliness. I guess some people are just born knowing how to be alone, and Jenna, well, she wore that like a second skin. She didn't ask questions, not unless she needed an answer to fix something. So when that battered old rig rolled in, hazard lights flickering, brakes screaming for mercy, she didn't bother with pleasantries. The driver was older, face half hidden under a soaked ball cap, voice tired and thin. "Brake's been locking up since Ellensburg," he muttered. "Nobody'd touch it." She just nodded, pulled on her jacket, and got down in the muck without a word, the rain running off her back. I watched her crawl under that beast like it was nothing, her, alone in the storm, tracing hoses and valves like a surgeon feeling for a pulse. "You're lucky you made it here," she said, voice flat as the road out front. "Could have jackknifed half a mile back." The old man looked away, maybe embarrassed, maybe just cold. "You can fix it?" Jenna shrugged. "Not the way a dealer would, but I can get you home. Just drive like you mean it." That was it. No pitch, no upsell, just straight talk, the kind that only comes from someone who's had more machines than people in their life. She rerouted the ABS, ran an old-school bypass, dried out the lines, did things most shops wouldn't even try because they're not on the checklist. 40 minutes later, his truck purred like it hadn't in years. He tried to pay her, of course. She shook her head, water dripping from the bill of her cap. "Get home. That's enough." I'll never forget the look on his face, not gratitude. Exactly, something quieter, heavier, like maybe hope. That's a compliment, where I come from. If you brought her a problem, she solved it, no drama. If you didn't, she let you be. But here's where things turn, where the world comes knocking even when you're not looking. 2 weeks after that storm, sun barely up, a sound rolled in across the gravel lot. Not one engine, but a dozen, then more. Big rigs, each one spotless, lined up like a procession for someone you never got the chance to say goodbye to. Jenna was outside, cup of coffee warming her hands, looking like someone trying to pretend she didn't hear it. But you couldn't ignore it. No one could. 15 trucks, maybe more, stopped in perfect formation across both lanes. Headlights on, engines idling low, chrome shining in the early light. The first driver climbed down, tall, rough around the edges, carrying a single white rose and an envelope. He handed them to Jenna without a word. She opened the letter right there, hands not quite steady, and started to read. I was close enough to see her eyes go wide, then soft. "Jenna, this convoy is his thank you." That's what the letter said. I don't know what that felt like for her, but she stood there, still as stone, as each trucker stepped forward and left a white rose, some on her workbench, some by the door, some just at her feet. Not a word, just a touch to the shoulder, a nod. A kind of reverence you don't see much these days. The last driver, a woman with grease-stained coveralls and a tired smile, paused beside her. He said you never asked his name. That meant more than you'll ever know. And that was it. The whole convoy started up, engines low and respectful. each one honking once as they rolled away. The sound of it echoed for miles. A kind of tribute louder than applause, softer than a prayer. Jenna watched them go, a line of steel and memory fading into the sunrise. When it was over, she found one last rose beside her toolbox and a scrawled, "Thank you, Jenna," on a trailer door as it disappeared down the road. She stood there a long time, just breathing, the letter pressed to her chest, until the sun burned off the last of the rain and the scent of diesel faded to something like hope. Inside, she put the rose in a mason jar and tucked the letter away with her tools. Didn't say a word about it, not to anyone. But if you stopped by the garage after that, you might have seen her smile a little easier, like she was carrying a secret the world hadn't quite stolen yet. She didn't fix things for praise or money or to see her name in lights. She did it because it was right. Because sometimes, in a world that's too busy, too angry, too broken, the smallest kindness can start a convoy that stretches farther than any of us can see. And maybe that's the thing worth remembering. Maybe it's not the big moments or the names we forget. Maybe it's what we do for strangers, in the rain, with no thought of reward, that keeps us human. So what do you think, folks? Does it matter who gets credit, or just that the job gets done? I want to hear what you think about kindness, justice, and the little things that hold communities together. Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever seen a moment like this in your own life. Because stories like Jenna's, they belong to all of us. You'd think after a morning like that, the world would quiet down, that maybe, just maybe, a person could finish their coffee and move on. But you know how small towns are. Word gets around faster than the trucks that thunder through, and even if you keep your head down, you're never really invisible. Folks started drifting by Jenna's garage more than usual, some just peeking in, some pretending to need a tire checked or a little air in the line. But their eyes always landed on that mason jar with the white rose, right there by the register, catching sunlight like a keepsake from a dream. Let me tell you, a town like ours doesn't always know what to do with quiet heroes. Some folks whispered she got lucky, that she was in the right place at the right time. But most, the ones who'd spent a lifetime watching the world from behind cracked windshields, they saw it for what it was. That's how you know the story started to grow legs. Slipping down Main Street, out to the farms, into late-night conversations at the diner. About a week after the convoy, Jenna was closing up for the night, rain tapping gentle on the tin roof. When the bell over the cafe door jingled, not a customer, not someone she recognized right away. A little boy, no more than 9 or 10, dripping wet, holding a toolbox almost as big as he was. Behind him, a woman came in, trying to look calm, but there was worry in her eyes, the kind that comes from years of barely scraping by. The kid had that look too, fierce and shy. A mix of hope and shame that'll break your heart if you look at it too long. "Excuse me," he said, voice steady. "Mom says our car won't start. She says maybe you can fix it. We don't have much, but I can help." And with that, he set the toolbox on the counter, opened it, and inside were a few rusty wrenches, a flashlight with no batteries, and a note that just said, "Thank you for helping my mom, Noah." Jenna looked at the kid, at the woman, at the rain outside, and for the first time in a long time, her voice softened. "Let's go take a look, partner." Outside, the old sedan sat half submerged in a puddle, hood popped, steam curling out. Jenna lifted the hood, started running through checks, battery loose, terminals corroded, alternator belt hanging by a thread. It wasn't going anywhere tonight, that much was clear. The kid washed her hands like he was memorizing a magic trick, shadowing her every move. And when she explained what she was doing, he nodded, serious as a judge. "I want to be like you someday," he said. Jenna just grunted, but the edges of her mouth twitched like she was fighting a smile. It took most of an hour and 3 different shop rags, but by the end, the car sputtered back to life, coughs and all. The woman tried to pay, digging through her purse for bills she clearly couldn't spare, but Jenna just shook her head. "Keep your money. Buy him some dry socks." That night, when she locked up, she found a single daisy sitting on her workbench, right next to the rose. Funny thing is, it didn't stop there. Maybe it was that convoy, maybe just the way the world was spinning, but after that, folks started helping each other more. Old Walt down at the feed store started offering rides to anyone whose truck broke down. The high school shop class came by to ask Jenna for advice. And she actually let them watch her work. Didn't say much, but the kids soaked up every word like gospel. Even the sheriff, a man with a reputation for being as tough as a $2 steak, started stopping in for coffee, sharing stories about his own first rig, the one his father rebuilt with him back when he was barely out of short pants. But not everything was easy. There were folks who didn't like the attention, who thought maybe Jenna was getting too much credit, that it shouldn't take one act of kindness to make a town remember how to be good. One afternoon, a group of out-of-towners rolled up, couple of slick types in rented SUVs, business cards flashing, offering to partner with Jenna to put her on a billboard, maybe get a spot on the news. She listened, nodding, eyes cold as rain. You want a story, you'll have to find it somewhere else. I'm not selling this. That night, someone spray-painted, "Not all heroes wear overalls," on her garage door. Jenna scrubbed it off before sunrise, lips pressed tight, but when the morning shift came by, someone had taped a note to the handle. "We see you, Jenna. Keep doing what you do." Here's the twist, the part nobody saw coming. One of those high school kids, the shy one always at the edge of the group, turns out he'd been skipping school, couch surfing after his dad got laid off, barely holding it together. Jenna caught him sleeping in the back of an old pickup behind the shop one stormy night. Didn't call his folks, didn't make a fuss. She handed him a sandwich and an old blanket. Let him stay until sunrise. That's it. Next day, the kid came back with his father. The two of them, standing a little straighter, started coming around more, fixing up old engines, sharing stories, helping out anyone who needed it. So maybe, in some odd way, that white rose sparked something bigger than just a thank you. It cracked open the tough shell of a tired town, let in a little light. Reminded folks that community isn't about the big gestures or the headlines. It's about small mercies, shared burdens, and the courage to reach out, even when it's easier to turn away. You ever think about that? How one act of kindness can echo out, twist through the lives of strangers, come back to you in ways you'd never expect. Maybe that's what keeps us trying, even when it feels like nothing's changing. Maybe that's the real legacy, not a convoy, not a jar of flowers, but a town slowly learning how to take care of its own again. So tell me, have you ever witnessed something small turn into something huge? Does it matter if anyone remembers your name, or just that the work gets done? Drop your thoughts below, share your story. And if this hit you in the gut like it did me, pass it along. Let's see how far one little spark can travel.